Peace, fam. A while back, I did a video on cortisol, and one of the points that I covered was the fact that people have ethnic genetic predispositions to certain stressors that other people are not susceptible to. On that subject, I want to show further proof of genetic specificity to phenotype for the purposes of letting people know that they have to consider who they are ethnically when it comes to eating and all other sciences. So please listen to the following clip very carefully. Now, before I play it, I did not know prior to this movie, which is called The Great Culling, that fluoride had lead and arsenic in it, which are claimed to be possible contaminants, but the National Sanitation Foundation, the NSF, does routine tests and routinely finds the same types of contaminants in the raw base, which is fluorosilicic acid. So not only is there a danger from the fluoride alone, but common contaminants in the product as well. So it's also used in drugs that affect the brain specifically, which is, wild to me. But listen to the clip because I think it's important information to pass on as well as more motivation to be steadfast in your efforts to eat and drink cleanly.
Commonplace for us to consider fluoride as the thing to do to help decay, but we now know, statistics have shown us, that fluoride is not working. It's very toxic to you and can cause everything from cancer to depression. So yeah, it's a serious issue.
Fluoride is obviously not for everyone.
We've now found out that fluoride can harm babies. And we also know that it's been admitted that there are other groups that can be harmed by fluoride.
The Center of Disease Control in the 2005 report indicates that Black Americans and Mexican Americans had a higher rate of dental fluorosis than white children.
There's a gene that African Americans have too. And so their intestine is grabbing the lead with both hands, and then the Hispanic kids just have one. So they're just grabbing the lead with one hand. The Caucasian kids don't have either one. So the lowest level of lead is actually in the Caucasian kids, and then Hispanics up 400%, and the African Americans 600% when you put silicon fluoride in the water, and that's because they have a genetic predisposition.
Everybody's dose is different. That's what's critical here. Your dose, my dose, and African Americans' dose, Hispanic, we all have genetic differences. And that process window may be this big, but you know what? They've decided that everybody gets the same, and that's where the problems happen. There's no single dose that is good for everybody.
Which makes water fluoridation with hydrofluorosilicic acid a crime against humanity. And it's time for them to stop. What it does, it causes minorities, especially lactose intolerant minorities, to suck up lead like a sponge and end up with learning disorders and be imprisoned for violent crimes. That's Fluoride Gate. So if you want to Google Fluoride Gate, you will come across the black ministers of America decrying the addition of hydrofluorosilicic acid to the public water supplies because it is a racist policy that causes disproportionate harm. It causes disproportionate harm to babies because they're little people and they drink a lot of water. It causes disproportionate harm to people who are dependent upon the water supply and cannot afford to buy bottled water or buy a nice fancy system that actually takes it out. The president of the Coalition of African American Pastors has said, why wasn't the black community told that blacks are disproportionately impacted by harm from fluorides and fluoridated water? Nobody told me until I learned about this a year ago.
It's very expensive for the ordinary family to avoid fluoride once it's in the water, and that is the nub of Fluoride Gate. That is the nub of why these civil rights people in Atlanta are speaking out, because they recognize that families of low income are unable to avoid this if they wanted to.
You can see that when you graph it by race, that there is a lot more injury to the minorities. 14% for the Caucasians, 21% for the African Americans, Mexican Americans are 16%. Have very mild dental fluorosis. Very mild is 25% of the second most damaged tooth. This is insane. The worst damaged tooth, we don't even count that. If it's just one tooth, throw that data out. If it's two teeth that are damaged, it's the lesser of the two evils. When you go to the next one, you see mild, which is 50% of the second most damaged tooth. Caucasians again at 4, African Americans at 8, Mexican Americans at 5. This is less than 50% of the second most damaged tooth. They call that mild. And then we go to moderate. And this is where the entire surface of the tooth is a chalky white. The National Academy of Sciences identified this as a health effect. Severe is where parts of the teeth are missing. There's a substantial percentage of the children in the United States, in fluoridated communities, that have severe dental fluorosis, partly from the fluoride tablets, which shouldn't be on the market, partly from swallowed toothpaste, partly from eating things like Cheerios that are 10 parts per million fluoride, partly from drinking the water.
How much?
You've got to tell them what it's bad for, the side effects, and then they, in theory, make up their minds. This has been ripped away from us.
Water fluoridation is the dispensing of a drug.
This is not chlorine. This is not any number of the other chemicals that are used to treat the water.
Fluoride is being put in specifically to alter you physically, to make a physical change in you. Fluoride is being put in specifically to alter you physically, to make a physical change in you.
Fluoride is a drug, is a medicine.
The majority of our prescription drugs, the primary ingredient is fluoride. Fluoride is a drug.
Oh, I didn't know that. No idea.
Well, anytime you see the letters FLUO, you're talking fluoride. Fen-phen, the diet drug that ruined hearts, well, that was a fluorinated diet drug. Prozac is fluoxetine. It's a fluorinated psychoactive. Matter of fact, almost all your psychoactive drugs are fluorinated drugs. They put it in there both as a carrier and an accelerator of the effect.
The actual active ingredient in Prozac is fluoride.
Prozac is made almost entirely from fluoride molecules. It is, and like SSRI drugs, are similar molecularly to some of the elements in fluoride. Remember the school shootings in Columbine, Colorado? They were on SSRI drugs. Those drugs make your mind think that you're not living in the real world, that you're actually just sort of experiencing a false reality. And I think fluoride has much the same effect.
There is absolutely no drug on the market that's given in a one-dose-fits-all situation.
We don't put other things in the water to try to keep everybody's blood pressure down or everybody's stroke risk down. And there's no reason why we should be trying a one-size-fits-all approach for this either.
Once you put a medicine in the drinking water, you can't control the dose, because you can't control how much water people drink. You can't control who gets it. It goes to everybody. If you ask a pharmacist if there's any drug in his store that was safe enough to give to everyone, young people, old people, sick people, people with poor nutrition, give it to them in any dose, they'd laugh at you.
I hope you can appreciate what's happening here, because if this is, hypothetically, if it was a formula to target specific people at specific ratios, it would be an almost perfect plan, hypothetically. I advise people to watch an old movie called Free the Hard Way with Jim Brown, Jim Kelly, and Fred Williamson. It's a 70s movie, so it goes way back, but you'll find it very interesting with regard to this information. It's on YouTube, so it should be easy to find. So it should be more clear now why you must take into account your unique biology, because there are more externalities that specifically affect you based on your ethnicity than the fluoride. Peace. If you learned from this video, help support the study and time to bring this knowledge to our community. It does take time and effort to be concise and as accurate as possible so that we can stay abreast of important health information and techniques. Please visit the site and follow these links.